Gabriel Jesus has been ruled out for game week 1 and potentially game week 2. Christopher Nkunku leaves the field with a knee injury and FPL is in absolute tatters. But thankfully in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do now that Gabriel Jesus has been ruled out of our FPL drafts. So make sure you do stick around for this video. Make sure you do drop a like and of course, smash that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get into the craziness of what is FPL right now. So to keep you guys in the loop on exactly what is happening with Gabriel Jesus, here is a recent quote from Arteta off the back of that injury news. He has undergone a small procedure which is going to rule him out for the next few weeks. Now, of course, the season doesn't kick off till next Friday, but I read that in thinking that he is going to be ruled out definitely for game week 1 and potentially game week 2 as well, which makes him not an FPL option for our game week 1 drafts. And this, while it is frustrating, gives us a bit of clarity and an opportunity to really build our drafts towards the most optimal move, which of course I am going to touch on in this video. But this is really big news because he was so highly owned within the FPL community. Now, the interesting thing is this. With the injury to Gabriel Jesus, other options have emerged in the Arsenal team. But importantly, another forward at Chelsea has started to take the lead. But he's gone and got injured. Now again, for those that don't know, last night Chelsea played Borussia Dortmund in a friendly and Nkunku left the field after 23 minutes with a potential knee injury. Here are the quotes from Pochettino after the game. He's basically stating that the doctors are checking him and I hope it is not a big issue. So at the time of recording, we don't have an understanding on how extensive this knee injury is for Nkunku. But right now, it is not good for Gabriel Jesus replacements because the obvious one in Nkunku is now a slight risk. Hopefully between now and game week 1, we will have full clarity on the status of Christopher Nkunku. But while we're building our drafts right now, this really isn't ideal news. So why is this Gabriel Jesus injury a big problem for us FPL managers? Well, here on the screen, I have what is the most popular Arsenal combination, the triple up, which is Gabriel in defence, Saka in midfield, and Jesus up front. Now, as I said, there are different alternatives to this. This isn't exactly the way managers are going, but based on ownership, this is the route that managers are going for, and I completely understand this combination. Gabriel at 5 million offers fantastic value. He's better than Ramsdale, I believe, especially with them being in the market for David Raya. He's less expensive than the likes of Ben White and way more secure on minutes than the likes of Zinchenko, for example. He had the highest XG per 90 of any Arsenal defender last season as well. So Gabriel was a no-brainer in our Arsenal selections from my perspective. And Saka as well at 8.5 million, being a bit of a shoo-in for a lot of managers at 55% ownership. The penalty taker in this Arsenal team, the most minutes played of any midfielder last season for Arsenal, had a 5 expected FPL points per 90, and what we would deem little rotation risk. With the signings that they've made this season, I think it just secures Saka's position in the team even more, as I don't see a natural replacement for him on that right of the front three. But the big one is Jesus, the third part of this Arsenal triple up, owned by 29% of FPL managers prior to that injury news. He had the best XG per 90 of all Arsenal attackers, the best expected FPL points per 90 of all Arsenal attackers, and importantly, being a forward in the game was a really nice way of us structuring our FPL teams. Yes, the Arsenal double up in midfield is an absolute viable strategy, but with so many great other alternatives out there like Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, Son, Maddison, Foden, all these great prices, it felt like the perfect combination to have one from each position, meaning that we could then invest in other teams in those midfield areas. But now that Gabriel Jesus is injured, it's opening up a forward spot for our teams, and importantly, where do we fill that third Arsenal spot with those amazing fixtures that they have? So as I mentioned, the fixtures are too good not to triple up on Arsenal in my eyes. But realistically, Enquiries is the only other forward available in the game, and I really cannot get behind him as a Jesus alternative. I think that's a transfer waiting to happen. And with the signings of Havertz and even someone like a Trossard who can play as a false 9, I really could not sit here and tell you that Enquiries is going to absolutely play for Arsenal. So I think the move is to move into the Arsenal midfield and go for the Gabriel, Saka plus one more midfielder strategy. And I think that is going to be a much better way of structuring your FPL teams and then allocate that Gabriel Jesus spot to another player outside of Arsenal. So here are what I deem the best 3 Arsenal midfielders for us to choose from. Havertz isn't in the list. I just don't really know right now whether he's going to be a guaranteed starter. And I think the same could be said about Trossard, but we will come on to him. Now, Martinelli, from an underlying stats perspective last season, season was the best of all of them. He had that period last year when Trossard was signed that we were all worried about Martinelli's minutes. He had a slight time out of the team, but then came back all guns blazing. And we can see that with the underlying data here. XG per 90, 0.33. Expected assists per 90, 0.24. Really solid underlying numbers. And while some FPL managers think that Martinelli's minutes are going to get rotated from time to time, I still think that he is such an integral part of this Arteta team. His direct running cannot be replicated by any other player in this team on that left-hand side. And for me, I think he's a shoo-in for this Arsenal starting lineup in the opening game week. Now, somebody who is absolutely locked in for game time is Martin Odegaard. And his underlying stats are really, really solid as well. 0.25 XG per 90 and 0.24 XA per 90. He was right behind Martinelli. But the big thing about Odegaard is he is not getting taken out of this team. The only time he will get rotated during the game is if Arsenal are comfortably winning. And realistically, being the captain of the side, I just do not see him making way at any point in that starting 11. But with Trossard, he is somebody who is quite an exciting option for FPL managers, especially at his price point of only 7 million. A little bit cheaper than both Martinelli and Odegaard, and frees up some funds to invest elsewhere in your FPL team. Now, of course, the stats that you're seeing on your screen here are a little bit skewed because they take into account his Brighton data as well. But Trossard's time at Arsenal, he had a 0.12 XG per 90 and a 0.37 XA per 90. So he was much more of a creative asset in the Arsenal team rather than a goal scorer. But I think because of the game time issue with Trossard, I don't really know if he's going to play as an 8, a false 9, taking minutes off Martinelli. What I do think, though, is that Martinelli is locked in for game time in my eyes. You might have a different opinion, but I just think that he is so integral for the team. And at 8 million, being 0.5 million cheaper than Odegaard, I think Martinelli is the best alternative to Gabriel Jesus. Going for Saka plus Martinelli in your team means that if Trossard does hit the ground running and he is the asset to own, you can come down from Martinelli to someone like a Trossard. If you are sat there right now thinking, Martinelli's minutes, I think he is going to get rotated with Trossard and maybe even Havertz, then I really do advise you going down the Odegaard route, as his minutes are locked in and you can see from the numbers on the screen, they are fantastic as well. So what are these FPL drafts looking like with the absence of Gabriel Jesus? Well, here is how my current draft is looking. The goalkeeper and defence haven't changed with the news of Gabriel Jesus, but what has changed is the midfield. Previously, I had Phil Foden in my side in a 7.5 million price point, and I've now upgraded that to Martinelli. And of course, in the front line, this is the assumption that Nkunku will be fit for game week 1. Christopher Nkunku comes in, who is 0.5 million cheaper than Gabriel Jesus. Now, previously, this squad already had a little bit of money in the bank. With those slight changes, it has 0.5 million in the bank. And again, I always like having that little bit of cash available because in the opening game weeks, if price changes are really volatile, you don't have to make early price moves. You can simply hold off a little bit knowing that you have that slight cushion available to you in the bank. But this is the direction I think a lot of FPL managers are going to go for. Gabriel and then 2 Arsenal midfielders, Saka plus Martinelli or Odegaard. And then that Gabriel Jesus spot will become Nkunku as long as he is confirmed fit. But what about if he is out? Well, my friends, if Nkunku is ruled out of game week 1, then of course that is going to throw a massive spanner in the works. And for me, this is how my team would look. A simple swap of using the cash in the bank to upgrade Nkunku to Ollie Watkins. I know Ollie Watkins isn't a glamorous pick. I know that he isn't going to get those hat tricks that we all desire from an FPL perspective. But I think he is such an ever-present. He's in a fantastic team under Unai Emery. And while the fixtures are a little bit difficult, you know what you're getting with Watkins. Penalties, guaranteed game time. And in this Unai Emery team, forget about when he was under Gerrard and previous managers peeling off and making those wide runs. He is absolutely down the centre of this Aston Villa team, playing between the posts. And when we are building an FPL asset, if I had to create one, it would look something like Ollie Watkins. It's just the finishing leaves a little bit to desire. But why I like going to someone like an Ollie Watkins is he can come down to then any other asset in the game. So for example, you could have Watkins for the opening 2 game weeks, and once Nkunku is cleared fit, or even Gabriel Jesus, you can go sideways to any of those options available in the game. Now, I do like Darwin Núñez. It is worth noting. I think a lot of people are screaming back saying, get Darwin Núñez in your team. I'm a little bit worried about the game time. For me, in the opening few game weeks, I want to have a player that is just guaranteed those minutes. And I could see a situation where maybe Darwin Núñez plays 30 in one and 60 in the other. And his expected goals per 90 is so good that that might be enough minutes to get the benefits out of Darwin Núñez. But if you said to me, maybe 90, 100 minutes of Darwin Núñez in the opening 2 game weeks, or 180 minutes of Ollie Watkins, I think I'd rather go down the Ollie Watkins route. So that is how the team would look if both Gabriel Jesus and Christopher Nkunku were ruled out for game week 1. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Yes guys, okay, so that's going to wrap up today's video. A little bit eventful the last 24 hours with the injuries to very popular assets in Gabriel Jesus and Nkunku. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How is this changing your draft? Are you making major surgery to it? Or are you making those small changes like I have done in my FPL draft? All that leaves me to say is thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you do smash that like button. Make sure you do hit subscribe. We're aiming for 7k before game week 1 deadline. A little bit outrageous, but I know legends could do it. So make sure you do check out my most recent video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.